We also had the great fucking awesome artwork from Seth.
I was just about to say, how did the? I love the cover, and I generally really like Seth's artwork. But how did that happen?
We just had a preference for him, We just he just has such a strong influence in this day and age. I mean, he shaped, the artwork. Ultimately, it shapes also the how you take the whole experience of an album. So I think it almost changes the sound. It's so important to the whole art. So the contribution of Seth is so huge, and we knew that this heavy style that we were going after needed someone with a very heavy hand like Seth.
One thing that I did think as I looked at that Wothrosch cover is, could we maybe start like a crowdfunder to get Seth to redo the cover of the new cattle decapitation record so that they can. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 165 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, my good friend Nassos, Defiant, Stergiou, the frontman for the Greek black metal band Utkena, and the guitarist for extreme metal up-and-comers Wothrosch, makes his long-awaited return to the podcast. He and I caught up about the new Wothrosch record, Odium, which a lot of you have been talking about on the socials. We also spoke about his time in the army. We touched on a couple of cultural and geopolitical topics, and then he stuck around for a epic installment of the weekly news rant. We listened to a lot of new music, including tracks by Vredensdal, Old Forest, Afsky, and many others. And we had us a grand old time. It is a really, really fun conversation that you definitely want to stick around for. Before we get to that, though, my fellow horseman of the podcast apocalypse, Mr. Mike Scandado, recently told me to check out a band called Calugarul. And as it happens, the folk over at Metal Sucks have done the same. So I wanted to read for you from the article that they posted about the band a couple of days ago. It says here, "What were you doing when you were 15 years old? I'm willing to bet that you haven't done anything nearly as badass, epic, or metal as the teenager behind Calugarul. Based out of Brooklyn, New York, this act is a solo effort. The kid behind the music you hear below plays everything in the mix: vocals, guitars, drums, bass, everything." The second album, Infernal Shrieks Beneath, was released on February the 3rd and was the follow-up to the 2021 record, Dawning of Forgotten Lands. While the lyrics focus on life, death, religion, history, and all kinds of themes you should expect from a black metal act, they have a killer sound that's hard to deny. Now, many of you will know that I think it's a rare occasion indeed when I agree with the ramblings of the folks over at Metal Sucks. But when you're right, you're right. And therefore, I have determined that it is absolutely essential for the legions to hear a track by Calugarul. This is a song called Conjuring. You just listened to Conjuring by Calugarul off a record called Infernal Shrieks Beneath. It is mind-blowing to think that the gentleman overseeing the activities of that project is 15 years old. More so that he's 15 years old and plays every single instrument on the record. But the band as yet is unsigned, which listening to that song I think is an absolute disgrace. And I know that a lot of label folk listen to the show. So if you like that and you enjoy what you heard, then make sure that you reach out to Calugarul. I'll post the link to the Calugarul Bandcamp in the description of the podcast. So too to the Legions. If you liked what you heard, check out their Bandcamp and buy yourself some music, maybe even some merch if they're selling any. But yeah, really, really good stuff. And thanks to Mike for the shout out. And thanks to all of you who continually shout out stuff to me. Between, I think, the many folks that listen to this podcast and the people that do reach out and contact me on the socials, I mean, you really are inundated with so much music, you barely know where to start. But that's kind of the fun of building this community around the show that I think we are all in the process of doing. On that note, if you're new to the podcast, make sure that you have blown up the subscribe button like it was a Russian oil and gas pipeline. And also make sure that you follow me on the social medias. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Check out the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store. I've got a fucking killer design that is going to be launched on there in the next couple of weeks. Created by an alumni of the 2020's top 30 best albums of the year. I'm just going to leave that one hanging in the air. You guys can figure out who it was. But yeah, something absolutely awesome. It'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. Again, I just need to get the time to sort of get everything sorted out as far as that merch store is concerned. But in the meantime, the classic Into the Necrosphere logo design is there. There is also a design by an Indonesian artist called Dark of Necroy. And you can pick all of those up. And obviously any money that I make out of that doesn't go towards my Ferrari or towards hookers and blow. It goes towards making the show look and sound better. Also, perhaps most importantly, make sure that you are following my fellow horsemen of the podcast Apocalypse. Every Monday, my friend Brandon Legion brings you interviews with writers, directors, screenwriters, producers, actors from the horror genre. His podcast, as you should know, is called Horrible 666. Every Tuesday, you've got yours truly bringing the heat, casting hexes and slaying posers on Into the Necrosphere. Every Wednesday, Mike Hill of Tombs and Scorpion Throne brings you Everything Went Black, and he returns on a Thursday with perhaps my favorite show of the week, Necromaniacs, which also features Mike Scandado and Jeff Kashid as Mike Hill's co-hosts. And then every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Haikara brings you interviews, sometimes solo episodes, discussing the world of the arcane, the weird, and the esoteric. This week, I am actually on with him talking about one of my favorite horror movies ever, The Exorcist 3. Always a great time catching up with Carl, and if you like that movie, you're going to get to hear us nerding out over it for about 2 hours, so make sure you check out that episode. But thanks to all for the support you have given my show and my fellow horsemen. I hope that you are going to enjoy the next 2 and a bit hours with me, as I welcome back to the show my friend Nassos Stergiou of Wothrosch. Right, so welcome back after I think it's about a 2.5-year absence, and you are overdue congratulations on the fact that in 2020, Utkena's Next Fornix had the honor of Album of the Year on Into the Necrosphere bestowed upon it.
Yeah, it was a very, very big honor for me, to be honest. One of the milestones of my, music journey, and I think it was a kind of well deserved to be, to be humble. It was a good CD. Not too crazy, but I think we expressed something different and a very good balance of a few musical ideas we had throughout our time. Thank you for having me once again. It's a great pleasure, and looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome, man. Well, that Next Fornix record, I still talk about it on the podcast from time to time. I still play some of the songs from time to time. I think it's I hope that I've helped raise the profile of the record a little bit, but I really did think, it was extraordinary when it came out. I still absolutely love the album. I feel like it was something that more people needed to hear. And I mentioned this on last week's podcast as well. Like I set 2 goals myself for the show, and really last year the focus was, can I I want to get to a point where I no longer have to fish for guests, so I don't want to have to spend every fucking Sunday night sending emails and hoping people respond. And the other more important thing is I wanted to be able to help raise the profile of bands in the underground that I believe in and whose music I like. So hence why getting behind Wothrosch, behind Utkena, Antichrist Imperium, and bands like that. But we will no doubt on this episode let folks hear some more Utkena. I have to ask you though, we'll talk about Wothrosch in a second. But what has been happening with Utkena? Is there plans for another record?
Yes.
Things have kind of been a little quiet in that camp.
Yeah, yeah. I had the, as you know, I was in my military service the last time we talked. It was kind of, it broke my reality in two. I had to stop doing some things for a few time. Therefore, we have had some ideas during that time. And of course, there will be a continuation of our work, for sure. I plan to do some, new things. Maybe take the music into a bit more of an experimental style. I cannot define it, precisely right now. It will show up in the recordings, but I can assure you that you will hear something different and an evolution of the things we published in the past.
Yeah, yeah. And I was going to ask you actually about the military service, because I can see your hair is a bit longer now. So the clean cut young man
Yeah,
that
of course, of course.
that sat before me previously was is
Yeah,
no
yeah.
more. So you're done with that now.
Yeah, of course.
That whole chapter is
Yes,
behind
I'm
you.
done.
When did you
Yeah.
finish up?
I finished about a year and a half ago. The service duration is about 9 to 12 months. It depends on your class and your specialty. For me, it was a very educational experience. Apart from learning all the technical stuff about using the equipment and all that, you learn to some, for me, very valuable lessons for life. For example, you find yourself in an environment with 25 other men, in the same room. You have to sleep together. You are presented with the opportunity to learn how to calm yourself in a very hostile environment towards calmness, towards relaxing. So I think you can. It's a form of forced meditation, if I can describe it.
Yeah.
I learned many things. I created many connections. The people there, because you actually endure through the same difficult stuff. It's you share very important things, so the connection is very deep and easy with the people you meet there. Also, because I like personally military stuff. I was in a department of the army that had the Apache helicopters and the Chinook helicopters, and it was very. I felt awe every morning when I woke up to see the Apache helicopters doing the exercises, going up 1,000 meters, switching off, torque, dropping down like a stone, and like 10 meters off the ground they shave and go off again. It was very inspiring, and I will remember it every day of my life since till the end of my life. Actually, I'm sure of it.
So what was your specialism, or what was kind of the track that you went down in the when you were in the army?
So the section of the army in which I was is called in Greek Aeroporia Stratou. This means it's the Air Force that supports the ground army. It started in like 1960 with some spy vehicles, like spy airplanes and helicopters. Then it became a kind of transport for VIPs and other important ammo and packages that needed delivery and with a military interest. And after that, with the technology, evolving and the new helicopters appearing in the market, they bought Apaches, they bought Chinooks, they bought Hueys, and now they bought some new ones. They are called Warrior. I don't remember the manufacturer, but actually Greece has one of the most important GDP to army ratios. So actually, 3 to 5% of the Greek GDP is going to the army. It's like one of the highest, I think, in the world, in the region for sure. So I have seen many impressive stuff, and I think that Greece has a merit towards its army. I think it will stand its ground very good if the opportunity rises. I hope not.
Yeah. Well, Greece is part of NATO, correct?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So so there's definitely definitely utility there, and I'm glad to see from a GDP perspective they're contributing what they needed to the military. I was just looking up the Warrior helicopter now, so that's done by a company called Bell Helicopters.
Okay, great.
You wouldn't have in that that short period of time, you wouldn't have learned how to fly, would you?
No, of course not. No. This, to learn how to fly, you have to go through an extensive training of like
Yeah.
5 years. Yeah, you have to be actually a member, a paid member of the army. We were just conscripts,
Yeah.
in a sense. Yeah.
And the arrangement that you have with the army in Greece, is it like it used to be in South Africa when they still had conscription there, where you can essentially, as you've now been through the process, you can essentially be called back at any point if shit should erupt?
Yes, of course, of course. If you are functional, you are. It's mandatory to show up. Of course, everyone has his specialty. I was a driver, for example. So if something happens, I will, the situation will be assessed, and everyone will be called to go at their posts. Yeah.
What is the basic training like in Greece? Is it you see stuff like Full Metal Jacket, obviously, and I can talk to it to a degree as well because my dad used to be a drill instructor in the army because in his day conscription was there, and I remember watching Full Metal Jacket with him when I was really young, and he was laughing his head off and saying that that is exactly the way that it is. He's like, it's no exaggeration, no nothing. That's how it is. He says, and as drill instructors, we were ordered to be that way with the new conscripts, because he says that's the way that you identify the guys that are weak and that just basically shouldn't be there. So he thought it was hilariously funny, but I'm always curious as to how different countries manage their militaries. You still there?
Yeah, I have some connection issues actually. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
Let me see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear and see you fine.
Okay. Yeah, I heard your question. In Greece, it's not that, how can I say it? It's not so tight, people do not, drill instructors are not that edgy with people.
Yeah.
But because they are paid members of the army, and the thing is that the bad thing, in my opinion, is that the army is not private enough. So that means that it actually works in some aspects like public services, which in Greece are very overpopulated, not productive at all. There is a mentality of the less work we do, the best it is. That reigns in most places.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly they do not strive for progress in a sense, and you can see that in the way they treat conscripts like us. I mean, it's easy to skip the army. You just go to the psychologist and you say that I'm having panic attacks and every time I see weapons.
Yeah.
So either you go for a very little time or you do tasks that do not employ guns and stuff. But the people that go through the army choose to go through the army. So I guess that a little bit more respect towards the conscripts would be very positive, because people would hold dearest memories in the future and would convey that to their children as well. So in the end, maybe the country would not be so woke in a sense, because we just go the way that the world goes.
Yeah.
So I think that we live in a time that, maybe we tried looking outwards to the world, but we see that some stuff doesn't go that well. So maybe looking inward a bit to better ourselves as countries, each one for itself, would be a good time of reflection in order to solve some problems, because you see that many stuff is going to hell right now. So I think that we have to work on ourselves, each country for himself, kind of.
It's a very interesting point that you make there. I saw, and I can't remember exactly where it was because I haven't read the article yet, but there was an article posted on Zero Edge today where Elon Musk was commenting on essentially saying too much global cooperation isn't a good thing, because he says effectively if you move, the closer you move towards single world government, the greater the risk that if it falls over, that it affects a wider number of people. If you have a number of points of failure in the system, or across a range of countries, the less of a risk that if one country's economy were to fall apart, it's going to affect several other countries. Which I thought was very interesting. It's interesting you make that point as well, because I do happen to agree as well. And sadly, in this day and age, even daring to mention such a thing, people immediately think that there's, bigotry or something like that behind it. It's not got anything to do with bigotry. It's got something. It's got more to do with, having a realistic view of the world. Most geopolitical analysts, most people who are completely politically agnostic, intellectuals who are politically agnostic, will look, for example, at the European Union and will say that economically it can't sustain itself. It's a failure and it's going to implode. The reason for that is because Germany essentially dominates it. And you can't have a union assembled in that fashion, where essentially you've got four different regions, all with very unique economic challenges, that kind of has to march to the beat of the drum of really two main countries, and that's France and Germany. But again, dare to say that, and you're a monster. You hate immigrants.
It's the link is automatic. So the people who speak out when you say stuff like that like very much to put everyone in the same box. So they are the first that do not make the effort to try and listen to your points and to try to analyze why you're saying that. They just put you in a box with the rest of them, and you belong in an easy place for them to think and consider and rant about, and that's it. So this shows a lack of motivation and effort from their part. It's their loss if they do not try to, listen. So for the European Union, I agree 100%. It's actually it's a union of like 3 to 4 speeds, different speeds. Greece or Portugal will never be able to compete with the production and productivity of France, Germany, Italy, even Italy. So in the level, of first of all of working hands, Greece has a very big problem of brain drain. Every person that respects himself and has a degree of a certain importance leaves very easily. We have a very big diaspora. We have 10 to 12 million people living abroad. The double So there's half of the Greeks live in Greece and half live abroad. So we cannot hold down people that would make a difference, first of all. Second of all, I think that it's also unfair for developed countries like Germany and France to pay for the difference that exists between the less advanced countries and them, because they pay the most, you know. So it's kind of unfair for those people to pay for the what? Lack of time. Maybe Greece in 50 years will be as productive as Germany today. It's a difference in time, you know, in progress. We can do nothing about that. So why do the Germans have to, or the French have to pay the Greeks, you know? I understand that point as well.
Yeah, no, again, I completely agree with you. I think the analogy of different speeds is a very good example. And you mentioned the immigration. I mean, part of my day job is looking at these sorts of things all the time. I advise clients on talent acquisition strategies and things like that. One of the things that I've been talking to people about recently is the brain drain out of the UK. And it's essentially a culmination of excessive taxing, excessively high cost of living. And the fact that, at least for the time being, English education and English experience is still reasonably prized abroad, especially in countries like Australia and Dubai. So the latest statistic that I saw that is, I mean, completely crippling for a country like the UK is presently there's an outflow of 200,000 skilled workers out of the UK every single year. And of those, 1/3 are workers in the digital or tech sector.
Okay.
Now, if there's already a skills gap of, and again, the estimates that I read said it's 2.6 million. So there's a digital skills gap of 2.6 million in the UK already. You have people that are leaving the tech sector to retire at a rate of, I think, 150,000 people a year. You have people leaving the country and immigrating, and you only have 89,000 on average STEM graduates every single year. That's a recipe for the UK to turn into potentially the next Italy, we've been compared to. It's certainly not a recipe for prosperity. So,
Yes. Unfortunately, as the generations progressed, times changed. People now find themselves in a situation where it's impossible. It's almost, for most people, next to impossible to do better than your parents.
yeah,
In terms of financially, for your house, your children, whatever, everything, almost everything. So I think there's also a toll on motivation and dreams in general. It's people are more grounded right now. So uh, I think that we live in an epoch of change. I don't know if you have seen the latest AI progress that has come out, like a Chat GPT or
well, funny
yeah.
you mentioned that. So I started using ChatGPT the other night on the free trial that the app offers,
Yeah.
and it gives you 3 free questions, and I answered 2, and I immediately bought myself a lifetime license. It's like, this is a gold mine for the
Yeah,
job that
yeah,
I do. I
yeah, it
mean, but
is.
I'll tell you what, it is interesting when you're using it. There are there are some inaccuracies. You can tell what it's ultimately doing. It's like a very heavily augmented version of Google search, and sometimes it'll take results that are from 2020, or I mean, I even had results on one question from 2017, and it's things that if you actually went and did a Google search yourself, you can find yourself. But you ask it to, like, I was playing around and I asked it, for example, write me a letter of complaint about bad service at a restaurant. Literally within 30 seconds, it's like a 5-paragraph email, and you could just literally copy paste, tweak that a little bit, and off you go. It's fucking insane. I mean, if like this is just scratching the surface of what it's capable of. I would say, this conversation that's been had or that's been ongoing in industry now about the impact of AI on the workforce, and how it's going to make a load of blue collar workers redundant. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. Labor costs for blue collar workers have increased exponentially over the course of the last couple of years because more and more blue collar workers are retiring. It's the lower skilled and even I would say medium skilled or mid skilled white collar workers that are at risk. Because if
Yeah.
ChatGPT can do what it does right now as just a phone app, I mean, even in the world I'm from, I can see it replacing 20 to 30%, hypothetically speaking, 20 to 30% of human beings that are doing similar work right now. It's absolutely
Yes.
fucking insane.
Yeah, yeah, I agree completely. As everything in technology and science, it's exponential. So we will not see it coming,
Yeah.
most probably. As we are not in a year, we have all those AIs. Last year there was almost nothing. Everything was under the blankets. Nothing was published. So it's exponential. Everyone should be aware of that. Um, I, I found a job. I started actually my career as a sound designer and music producer, and we are already looking for AI tools, not to replace our work yet, but we have to be proficient in those tools, because it's not the AI itself that is going to take our job. It's the guy that knows how to handle the AI.
Yeah.
So we have to be those guys. Uh, I easily see 20 to 30% decrease in positions, of course, for lawyers, journalists, and so many other professions. It's crazy the range that it can handle. Also, last thing, I think that it shows that maybe our language, maybe our humanity, as we know it, it's not that difficult to replicate, or to replicate. Maybe there is a component that we're not aware yet, or something. But the language model can do a very good job, and it can also pass tests. I think it's just entered like a medicine school or something.
Well, I believe that ChatGPT passed a United States medical exam. It also passed the bar exam for lawyers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else it completed, but I know those for a fact. I'm sure I read articles about those two, which again, it's like you talk about exponential change and exponential development. I go back to when I was 8 years old. My dad bought me my first computer, and it was really, he didn't buy it for me from scratch. He kind of put it together out of parts of his
Awesome.
personal computer that he was kind of throwing out. It had a 20 megabyte hard drive. It had 640K RAM. It
Wow.
was a 286 CPU, like an Intel, X286 CPU, and I thought it was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fucking coolest thing ever. When I got
Yeah.
a 40 meg hard drive, I was like, God, there's no way I can possibly fill this up with anything. I was running it through like an old, grayscale screen. There was only like 4 shades of gray as well. It was like a CGA screen. Again, when I upgraded to a VGA screen, I was like, Jesus,
Wow.
this is incredible. Saw my first game, a game called Crime Wave that had like semi photorealistic graphics, but only like for a little bit. Most of it was terrible. But then, you jump forward in the context of human evolution, a very short space of time. So, say 30, 35 years, and then you play a game like The Last of Us, or you play Elden
Yeah.
Ring, and you see what your phone is capable of doing. And you think
Yes.
to yourself, what is AI going to be capable of doing in 35 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I think that the Apollo mission, if it ever happened, I don't know. I have no stance on that.
Yeah.
But if it ever happened, we have more computing power in our phones than the whole mission had at the time.
Yeah.
So we have come a very long way. I hope and I dream that technology will be our savior from ourselves mostly. But the thing is that huge corporations rule the progress of technology, they fund whatever sector they think that will be most profitable. I agree with the open market, of course, but I think that this kind of technology is possibly world altering. So some ethical decisions, some ethical boundaries may be necessary in the very near future. Uh, I think that AI should be trained with human ethics, because if it at some time acquires some form of power, maybe, I don't know, some military equipment, a few tanks, a few helicopters, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
10 helicopters can do a very bad damage to anything if it chooses to do so. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to train it. I don't know how, of course, but with our ethics or some boundaries. We have to be very careful, in a few words.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you made the point earlier about, it's not about the AI, it's about the man who handles the AI. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's the concern. When you have shadowy groups like the World Economic Forum, the unelected bureaucrats of the European Union, and we've had a taste firsthand of how they managed something like the COVID pandemic. You can I mean, it's completely justified to look at something like AI and be absolutely terrified for what these people could do when I believe it inevitably falls into their hands.
yeah. Of course. You know, in the shadows, the most important things and the most important choices that affect humanity are taken. I don't think we will ever truly participate in the shaping of our future. Only on a very small scale with a make-believe democratic system. Um, I wish someday, somehow, with a few, with very much luck, maybe we will learn for the real things that were, committed in our times. But that's hopeful thinking, and I think that maybe our demise is a lot closer than the truth.
Yeah. No,
To Yeah,
I would agree, and you used the word woke earlier, which to me, I often look at it and firstly, I've said many times how much I despise that element in the metal scene, and for me, I will unashamedly say I don't think it has any place in metal at all. I don't think any extremist politics has
yeah,
a place in metal. I think it's the thing about it that's great is that it's unifying. There was a day where when you walk down the street and you saw a guy in a Pantera t-shirt or a Metallica t-shirt,
yeah,
you'd give him a knowing nod because you knew that you guys had at least one thing in common, and in the main, you could sit down with somebody who had the same T-shirt on, who suddenly you discovered that you shared a favorite band or a favorite song or a favorite album, and you could probably have a conversation with them for 3-4 hours. You don't have to have anything else in common. So I think those sorts of things just stoke division. But I do feel like a lot of the behavior in the woke movement comes from, and I say this out of empathy more than anything else, it comes from a place of despair, because you look on the faces of the people that are the most extreme and most on the fringe, these lunatics with their fucking green and purple hair smashing up shit and burning down buildings and stuff. And I made the joke when Johnny Kelly was on the podcast. I was like, do those people look happy to you? And you kind of knowingly laugh, but it's the
yeah,
truth.
yeah,
Exactly what you said earlier about in this generation, this is the first generation where we won't be as affluent as our parents. You can see it expressed in things like a decrease in the fertility rate. People are having less kids because they can't afford to have kids.
yes,
Nothing of the life that we grew up in and that many people aspire to is now easily attainable unless you have very significant means, and the ability to get those means is much more difficult, while you also have this external influence of Instagram and social media and things like that, hammering down
yeah,
the importance of being rich, and giving you this false idea of what life should be like. The influencer culture online, where it's people cruising around, 26-year-olds cruising around in boats with beautiful models and stuff like that, makes people feel inferior and miserable about their own lives, because they haven't yet found that place of calm that you referenced earlier. And I know I've just created a whole big straw man about that, but just kind of thinking, just thinking sort of openly.
Yeah.
I genuinely do think the woke movement comes from a place of genuine despair.
Yes.
And I think those folks will cling on to anything that they will. It's no different to religion, right? A lot of religious people turn to Jesus or they turn to Allah because they despair for their own lives, and that gives them a sense of meaning and a sense of hope.
Of course, of course. I agree 100%. Nothing really extremist is coming from a very soothing part of our life, of our brain. Of course, you can see that as like addiction, addiction can turn people to religion, for example, because with addiction, you lose interest to normal things, to mundane things, because you have very strong, a very strong flux of dopamine with, drug of choice or whatever, or alcohol or whatever. Therefore, when you rehabilitate yourself, everything is mundane. Therefore, some people turn to religion because it gives them the importance of something bigger that exists, something with purpose, And I also think that today, one of our duties as a generation is to try and find balance and calm in this, as you said, shitstorm of fucking combinations of social media with the economic situation, with the social situation. I think that, they combine and they create this hostile environment for reason and calm conversation. But I also think that we are very unlucky because the creation of social media and those economic crises, are independent things. We just happen to find ourselves in a fucking shitstorm of very hostile social environments. The only good thing, there are some, silver linings. For example, very young kids stop using Facebook that much. They find it cringy and boomer and stuff. They use, for example, TikTok, that is worse, I guess.
Well, that is a fucking septic tank of mental illness. But anyway,
yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy, and I find it very impressive how it shapes culture. The songs that are trending on TikTok, like tenfold the sales in 2 weeks. They explode. They set trends for dances, for I don't know, clothing, whatever. It has become a commercial tool.
Drinking laundry detergent and killing yourself.
Yeah. This is all made in the altar of social acceptance. It's one of the main things a human craves. Like we also do it. The metal scene is one of the, I guess, it's very diverse. But I think that the sense of belonging in the scene, especially for younger audiences, it's very important, the feeling of belonging, especially for metal, because it's also a bit for the outcasts, in a sense. So we feel it a bit more in our veins, Yeah, that's it.
Well, so again, interestingly, you think about the metal bands that are the biggest bands in the scene, right, or have been the biggest, and you go back over the course of the last 4 decades, say, it's always been the bands that have had, arguably speaking, and I might be completely wrong on this, but from my observation, it's arguably been the bands that have had almost like their own tribe, and they call it different things. You had the Kiss Army. I don't know what Metallica called their fans, Metalla fans, and you've got the Slipknot maggots, and Marilyn Manson. I don't know what fuck ups he has listening to him, but he's got his legion of fuck ups that are into him. But it's interesting that you say that. I mean, my take has always been, I think metal is a very accepting scene, generally speaking, and I think a lot of youngsters that don't feel like they belong anywhere, have not gained that degree of social acceptance that they crave, particularly at that age. They end up falling into metal, and then they tend to fall out of it again. So 4 or 5 years after they've had their pink hair phase and they've been wearing the weirdo, goth tights and shit, you'll bump into them in the street and they'll be a completely, ordinary stiff. And you'll say, oh, hey, how's it going? Are you still into, you still listening to metal? You still going to shows? No, I outgrew that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's,
Just a
I think
phase.
100%. And they are definitely they're the passes through,
Yeah.
And certainly, I don't know about you, but in my case, probably the lack of social acceptance came because of metal. and then I was a very stubborn kid, so I was like, well, fuck you if you don't accept it. Now I'm just going to be as verbose about it as I possibly can. And you maybe make a few friends and a few hangers on along the way, but for the most part, I think I probably ran the fine line when I was young, and this is not something I agree with now either, but I ran the very fine line of letting music completely define your character. And I think I was fortunate enough to have certain influences in my life that kept me away from tipping over the sort of the point of no return completely. But I'm very open about it. When I was a youngster, and the guys like James Hetfield and Phil Anselmo, I mean, those were gods to me. They literally, to me, were the most important people on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's maybe doing this, you get doing this podcast, you get a different appreciation for it, because the people that you don't expect to be the real badasses and the people that you befriend and you immediately hit it off with, they end up surprising you. And sometimes, not happen all that much, but sometimes the people that you think, when I was young, this guy was the coolest guy ever, they sort of, they're nice people, but they're just not, they're not your kind of person.
Yeah, well, you gain a lot of insights doing what you do, and growing, with your channel and stuff. And I think it's a great experience that you can meet all those people. I revisited your uploads, in the previous days, coming to our podcast, and I was looking at your video, your uploads, and you have invited some really awesome guests. It's real. You are really underrated, and I think you deserve the best, my friend. Like it's a very, very, very straight content. Like it's like straight fucking forward. That's what I describe it.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, in terms of growth, the channel has grown exponentially. And it's which is why it's I've been lucky in getting certain guests on, but then also because I've had certain guests on, because the channel has grown, it's been a lot easier to get guests on. But like I said, the main purpose that I have is, and when I bring on the bigger guests, it's in part because I want to talk to them. For me, for example, speaking to Greg McIntosh was, one of the fucking most incredible experiences the 16-year-old fucking metal fan in me would ever have asked for. But at the end of the day, the big thing for me is if I find a band that I believe in and that I really like, I want to be able to elevate them, and I want people to take notice. No different to when I was young. If I discovered a band, all my friends are like, okay, here's a tape. You need to check this out. This is fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
And it was like that for Wasp. It was like that for Pantera. It was like that for Slayer.
Yes.
Now let's. There was a very nice natural segue out of the geopolitical social commentary. Let's talk about Wothrosch, because
Awesome.
I don't think it's unfair to say you and Philip are probably pretty amazed by the response there's been to this record so far, because people have loved it, and I know the vinyl is sold out. So the way that it's been received by folks has been, I mean, I was surprised genuinely, because I loved the music when you sent it to me way back, and I always knew that it had a lot of potential. I'm really, really glad that it seems to have struck the right chord with people.
Yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for all the shout outs. It was when it started in 2018. We did not expect, of course. Then I would never expect this response, never. But during those years, the vision assembled, assembled itself, and with a very this time there was a very good job that was done for the PR, for the label, for what concerns the concept and the vision, the artistic, the lyrical stuff. Philip is a very talented musician and a very talented manager in a way. And I think that the release and the response to the release was greatly due to his magic, because I call it magic. He has a way to talk to people. He has a way to assemble his lyrics, to sing. He's a great vocalist. And I'm very honored to work with him along with our bassist, NP, who is also a great fucking musician. I love him as well. So this release was a surprise to me as well for the reception. The comments are great. In a few words, I think that we struck a vein because it's a very weird combination of genres in a way. It has some very slow and heavy elements that remind doom or sludge in a way. But of course, as you know me, I inject also the Black Death element in this kind of stuff. So with also some melodic, intervals, because I think that the build-up of tension means nothing without a release, So I think it's a kind of bold statement in an arrangement aspect. Wothrosch. I think it's bold in a way that it marries some elements together in a not very bad way. And I think that this has attracted people from of a large musical spectrum when it concerns for the genre. So I think that maybe a fan of doom metal has listened to us. A black metal fan has listened to us. Someone that listens to death metal has listened to us. And we were featured in the Metal Hammer in Greece. So we have attained a kind of, step above the underground in a way. That's why I think the reception seems great. Because, for example, I think that if the Utkena album had the same approach in what concerns the PR and the promotion, maybe it would have the same, for example, reviews. We'll never know. So I think that the overall image of the band, the work that has been put into working on the image, on the logo, on the designs, and on everything that concerns the visual, has had an impact in the reception of the crowd as well. So I'm very proud of the result. Every review that I see online is like a goal achieved for me. Musically, as an artist, if I can call myself that, I don't need anything else. I have created music that people like. I will never need anything else. So it's great for me because I work without stress. I just express myself, and I try to fiddle and push some things to the extremes sometimes in order to satisfy even the most demanding listener. I want to experiment, and because the second CD of Wothrosch is underway, we have already some very solid stuff. I can assure you that it will be very strong. Very strong.
It's so a couple of observations I have of the record. It feels, and I think this is part of why I enjoy it so much. It feels very contemporary. I love when a black metal band or an extreme metal band can take subject matter, wrap it in a very extreme sound and a very dark sound, and the sound of the kind of music I like. If I exclude Wothrosch from the equation, Panzerfaust's last record to me is a great example of that.
Yes.
Of taking subject matter that's very real. An element of grittiness they kind of bring to the table. I think you guys have done that with Odium very, very well. And like I said, I think it has a, and I actually don't even know the lyrics, but just the feel of the record feels very contemporary, and it feels like it has relevance in our day and age. Then the other things that I observe that I really love about the record, You are absolutely correct in that I think it would appeal to quite a broad swath of metal fans. I can see somebody who listened to the last couple of Paradise Lost. I was about to say Dying Fetus, Paradise Lost records. I can see them really getting into it. I can see somebody who liked the last Panzerfaust record really getting into this. I can see someone who likes something like Septic Flesh really getting into this. And then what I really love, and I don't know whether this is intentional, but it's like little Easter eggs scattered across the record that just kind of give a tip of the hat to the Greek masters, and I mean by which I mean Rotting Christ. And there's like a couple. I heard it on Utkena as well, and I don't know whether you do it on purpose, but there's like a couple of points I'm like, that's a Rotting Christ riff, and it's not like a rip off, but it's just like I love the way it's done because it's this really subtle tribute. It works perfectly well with the song, but a fan isn't going to know. You can pick it out.
Yeah, well, I really think that each kind of DNA contains a few bits of information concerning the notes we remember from past lives, our ancestors. I think that's why each country has a kind of specific, spice to their compositions. The Greek style is very recognizable, the Norwegian style as well is very recognizable. Icelandic as well. If you listen to a band from Iceland like Svarti Daudi, for example, you already know they're Icelandic. Icelandic. So I think that really there's a cultural aspect to this that bleeds to the music.
Yeah.
Like when we grow up, we listen to the tracks that play on the radio. Each country has a different set of popular tracks, each one with their own cultural influence. So after 1,000 repetitions, in the end, in your compositions, it will be there will be 1% of each country in our music.
So basically, you're saying that Rodriguez and Roxette are to blame for the fact that the South African metal scene stinks. Because that was the most popular when I was young. How did you and Philip meet?
Yeah. So in 2018, Nick Nick, our bassist, we were like common acquaintances with Phil. We figured to hang out and start a new, jam out a little bit, discuss for a potential, new band or something, a project. So, in general, Wothrosch, we always took our time from the very beginning. We never forced stuff. I've had the military service in between. We've had like breakups, we've had losses, we had many things, during those 5 years now. So the material was started very organically. The only thing that we had in mind was that we had to do something extreme. It was a bit general, as a start. But I think that the idea of extreme to itself pushed us to explore a few weird things, like very slow parts incorporated in our songs. In one song, I think that we used 66.6 BPM, beats per minute.
The perfect rhythm.
Yeah.
the devil's jive.
Oh yeah. It's very slow.
Yeah.
I think it's in the end of the song Sinner. So we tried to put some Easter eggs there too, some inside jokes. We always do that. But I think that the growth and the composition and the creation of the material for Wothrosch was so organic that I almost feel that there was no effort put in it because it was so compartmentalized, and well distributed through time that everything was so natural. And we had also a very good cooperation with George Emmanuel as a producer and mixer and masterer. I think he did a great job. He took our tracks and brought life to them, really. We also had the great fucking awesome artwork from Seth.
I
We
was just about to
always,
say, how did
yeah,
I love the cover, and I
yeah.
generally really like Seth's artwork. But how did that happen?
We just had a preference for him, you know. We just he just has such a strong influence in this day and age. I mean, he shaped, he, you know, the artwork. Ultimately, it shapes also the how you take the whole experience of an album. You know, so it's I think it almost changes the sound. It's so important to the whole art. So the contribution of Seth is so huge, and we knew that this heavy style that we were going after needed someone with a very heavy hand like Seth, you know. And I think that his art, we actually sent him the album, and he draw the result based on the album. I think it conveys you know, a stiffness, you know, a very a marching. You know, it's something solid. I don't know. The horse for me represents the endurance and loyalty. You know, it's the only animal with a dog that goes to war with man. So, no, it's a special type of animal. And the result is great. I love the palette. I love how it came out. Really, I think it complements perfectly the music. That's it.
That must be such a cool experience, though. You know, having created this music and then sending the music off to somebody like Seth and saying, paint us what you see as an expression of your feeling of hearing this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then it comes back, because I would imagine you had something completely different in your mind when the brief
Yeah,
went out to
nothing.
him.
Yeah, nothing. I had nothing in my mind because he's so huge, you know, his range is so out of this world that I really did not want to have an expectation. And I really didn't need any change, you know. When you commission someone like that to do your artwork, you are okay with anything that comes out. That's the rule for me. Because you chose him for his mind, for his view, and that's what you get.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because I probably many episodes back I would have mentioned this. Both my tattoos were done in the same way, so I always had, I always wanted to get tattooed, but I was always very conscious of what I got. I didn't want some, bullshit on my arm. Nothing like that. There's this video that's going viral at the moment of a guy holding up a picture of Lara Croft, and he's like supposed to get this photorealistic thing, and I mean it just looks fucking terrible. But I went to Leorcifer and I went to a guy called Dan Marshall, and they did my tattoos. In both instances, all I said to them was, I went through stuff that they'd done. I showed them some pictures of things I'd seen them do. And I said, I really like what you did. Yeah, I like what you did. Yeah, but I said, it's up to you. Well, whatever you want to do it. I'm coming to you because I love your art. I think because of that, in particular, the tattoo I got from Leorcifer, I've ended up loving those tattoos that much more because I know how
Yeah.
personal they are. The Leorcifer tattoo, really came from like he and I getting to know each other, becoming friends. And so when I look at it, I see elements of his personality in it, but I see elements of my own personality in it that I wouldn't have seen. I wouldn't have been able to imagine somebody manifesting it the way that he did.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I've had these now for probably 15. Yeah, it must be coming on 15 years now. I've never once looked in the mirror and gone, man, fuck, I wish I could have gotten something else. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
um,
awesome.
but it
Awesome.
is if anyone is untattooed or is thinking of getting a new tattoo, I very strongly recommend you go this route. Find a fantastic artist, of which there are many. I mean, there's Corpse Painter in Poland. There's Victor in I think he's somewhere in Portugal. There's Leorcifer, obviously. These dudes are fucking badass gangster men. They will do
Yeah.
something pretty incredible for you if you just say, you've got free reign, do whatever you want. No vaginas, but outside of that, no vaginas and dicks. But other than that, everything's fine. I was going to say, one thing that I did think as I looked at that Wothrosch cover is, could we maybe start like a crowdfunder to get Seth to redo the cover of the new cattle decapitation record so that they can. I mean, I know they've paid probably the budget has gone to Wes Ben Scooter, but Jesus Christ, that's
Yeah.
the fucking
Yeah.
worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It is. It is. It's weird.
It looks terrible. It's like it's like it's so
Yeah.
bad. It's put me off wanting to hear the album. I mean, that's how I've never once seen an album cover that I so immediately was like, "What the fuck are they doing here?" Like this is it's parody. It's terrible.
Let me see it again.
It literally looks like
Yeah.
the bad guy off A Bug's Life or the bad guy off Ants.
Yeah, ants. Yeah, it's ants. That's ants.
Yeah,
It's a PlayStation 2 rendition of ants.
100%. It's the kind of album cover that gets your lunch money stolen and you get given a wedgie and then get sent back every single day of your life at school. You wore that T-shirt, you'd get your ass kicked.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So the plans for Wothrosch, you said the next record is underway, but would you guys consider
Yes.
playing live? Are are you
Yeah,
thinking of kind of taking it to the stage?
Look, it's a of course, I would love it, if everything is set and in place and possible to reproduce the same quality as the CD. Of course, I'm in. But the thing is that it was started as a studio project in mind, so the composition and the orchestration is not possible with the crew we have right now. We would need like 2 more guitarists only to reproduce this sound, and I think because I love albums. I love the concept of albums and the feel it conveys and the vibe an album conveys. So the result we wanted to create was an overproduction of something that would not be possible to play in a gig. Of course, you can have samples and technology help, as most bands do nowadays. I have no problem with that. But we chose to be studio. If the opportunity comes, if all things are favorable, I'm not negative to converting to live for some, extraordinary event or something. But it will be a very difficult task to come into speed to the things I have recorded at this time. It's some things are quite challenging, and I have to go through them and learn it by heart. It's because I actually, as I compose music, I use the help of my editing program as well. I'm not one of those composers that will compose the song on the guitar, record it on its phone, and then orchestrate it. I like to record stuff and play around with them, with the help of technology, with editing. And I think that in the end result of Odium, there was a kind of distinct, choppy industrial sound sometimes that was born through the manipulation of the sound of the audio files with the editing program. It's actually technology enters the music production and the sound that comes out eventually. Kind of industrial, kind of industrial feel, choppy, heavy, metallic.
Yeah, almost kind of like Street Cleaner by Godflesh. That kind of cold, sort of sterile feeling.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of next record, have you an idea of when you guys would go to the studio and record that and get that out?
So we are quite fortunate because I have a kind of a home studio. And the thing is that many producers today, because the quality of recording is so good nowadays with the new audio cards and guitars and direct inputs and stuff, that when they record the first idea they have of the song, the first draft, it actually goes on to get mixed because the audio files are so good and hi-fi that they get directly mixed. So actually, when I compose the songs, I already have the elements to mix them. So we actually kind of have the songs in front of us here. It's kind of all ready. But Philip is planning some great things, some great collaborations, awesome collaborations really, with some great artists. I cannot say much right now, but expect some great musicians to be featured.
Well, you guys had Niklas from Shining on this record, and I remember again when you sent me the record, before the Hammer Art thing even happened. Like I was really impressed. I was like, Jesus, that's like a. I mean, he's not some fucking basement dweller that you guys managed to dig up somewhere.
Yeah.
The guy has a name, and he's he's in a band with a reasonable degree of recognition. How did that come
Yes.
about?
This is all Philip's making. Actually, Niklas is one of his favorite and most respected artists. He liked very much his work. So he thought that his voice and style would complement perfectly one song on the album. So he contacted him, and Niklas was great, super friendly, super cooperative, and he did his part. And I think it's a very nice highlight of the track when he
Yeah.
starts singing. Yeah.
And I love Shining. Shining's one of those bands that they can sometimes miss, but Jesus, when they hit, good lord!
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's just masterpiece from start to finish.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to be different. That's
Yeah.
that's what I like with all bands. I like.
Yeah. He's also quite a character on stage.
Oh yes.
that's
Oh, yes.
that's a
On
different
stage,
story altogether.
On stage and out of stage, he's he's really a character. It's not only an act.
Yeah, complete and utter wild man.
Oh yeah.
So I spoke to you about this before we got started, and it's going to be a bit experimental because it's the first time I'm doing this on StreamYard. So hopefully you can hear
Awesome.
properly. But
Great.
let's read us a bit of Metal Storm news,
Let's go.
and listen to some music and see what we think.
Awesome.
So I've just added Metal Storm on there. You can see it, I assume.
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'm going to jump in here, and let's see what captures our attention first. So the first news headline: Stergiou reveal the Construct of Misery song. It says here, Stergiou have teamed up with Decibel magazine for the exclusive release of their brand new song, The Construct of Misery, via the Decibel Flexi series. Decibel magazine is now offering an exclusive stream of the new single, which could be heard via SoundCloud Down Under. I'm going to assume that you are a fan of Greg McIntosh, or I will immediately end this interview and we will never speak again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
I am so amazed by this guy and his ability to go from Paradise Lost to Stergiou and Valenfire, and now he's done this host project as well that's, I believe, actually coming out next week, if I'm not mistaken. And he just seems to nail everything. I mean, and the guy is in his mid to maybe even late 50s. So the fact that he is, the fact that he's able to operate at the level that he's operating at after being in the game for such a long time, it blows my mind. I'm floored by it, and I'm inspired by it as well. It's like I think to myself, okay, when I hit my mid 50s, life isn't quite over just yet.
Yeah, well, some people are really born to do something sometimes, and he's the things that he does show that he's born to do this, and I think it's his fuel as well. He wouldn't be okay without it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I would assume you listened to that last record of theirs, the one that came out last year.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff, and also
Yes.
I think it was number 8 on my favorite records of 2022.
Okay.
But anyway, let's give the Construct of Misery a quick listen.
Let's go.
I'll continue in a second, but I'm going to assume that was only a clip of the song because I can't imagine the song is 1 minute 33 seconds long, so that we
Yeah,
can
maybe.
wait for an entire minute for the intro to be done, and then it carries on again. But I mean that I liked what I heard there, but I will say when it comes to Stergiou, when it comes to Greg McIntosh stuff, I tend to favor the more kind of doomy, darker stuff.
Yes.
This sounds to me to be reasonably not mundane, but just it's quite basic for a band that have the degree of talent that these guys have.
Yes, okay. In the first audition, I agree. I heard a little bit of Pantera, if I may say, in
As
there.
actually what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's not bad, but I also favor the deeper stuff, if you will.
Yeah, the stuff that's just a bit more memorable, that kind of sticks into your sticks in your brain a bit longer.
Yeah, I think it's also the emotional weight that goes into the slowest, the larger stuff he does. But I like also the more garage approach of this release. Okay, why not?
By the way, speaking of Pantera, I would like to publicly retract anything bad I've ever said about the Great Southern Trendkill. I have said before that I was never a record I really liked very much, and over the holiday when I was in South Africa, I went back and I listened to that album quite a few times. Fuck me, it's good.
Oh
There's some
yes.
songs on there that are just so brilliant. I mean, the actual song, The Great Southern Trendkill, I'm always blown away by little touches in a song, right? And sometimes it can
Mhm.
be something as stupid as like just a guy making like a voice noise, like ugh,
Yeah,
like at the
yeah,
right
yeah,
time.
yeah.
What I love about the Great Southern Trendkill, probably the most, is the fact that that Phil shouts "fuck yeah" like right after he starts the chorus. It's like, oh, and I love the way he does like the Great Southern Trendkill. That's right.
Oh
There's just
yeah.
something like that feels so unhinged and so fucking like punk, but in like the best possible way, like really obnoxious and aggressive about it. I fucking love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
All right, let's get back to it. Oh well, I was wrong. That is
That
just
is
one
the
song.
track. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, pretty good stuff. I mean, it's very like punky grindcore kind of thing. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, Strigoi is meant to be it's meant to be a creative outlet for him. So if he's down with that vibe, then more power to him.
No, I'm down. I like it. I like it.
Groovy. All right, let's move on. How do you know how you pronounce the name of this band? Is it Afsky or Afsky?
I would guess Afsky, like something Slavic, or something
Yeah.
Russian or something. Afsky.
Afsky, I would assume, but either way,
Yeah,
it says here
I.
on March 15th, 2023, Denmark's one-man black metal wanderer Afsky will release third full-length installment, Hundrede Ar. Vendetta Records will handle the release on CD, LP, and digital. For a preview, give a listen to the new track Stormfulde Hav. I know a lot of people raved about that last Afsky record. And I must be honest, I think it was a case of being spoiled for choice at the time that it came out. I never quite spent as much time with it as
Yeah.
maybe I should have. I don't know whether it was something you got into much.
I've listened to it, a bit, but nothing crazy. I don't have much time, as well, because my work is with sound. So I work with sound. I cannot listen to music. I come home. I work for my bands and my projects. I cannot listen to music. So really, my time is listening to music is spent while driving or taking a shower or something. It's
Yeah.
very limited. Very limited.
And is it a case of like, if you're immersed in a certain style of music 24/7, almost when you're going to listen to music for your own entertainment, you want to get away from that a little bit and listen to something else?
I would listen to something else with other people. Maybe when some gathering or something. But when I'm alone, I kind of listen to things that interest me, that maybe are kind of unexpected to my ear. I like being surprised by music in many different ways. This can have many forms, like the structure of a song, the tone of a guitar, the effects used behind the track, whatever. But because I am also very nostalgic. Of course, if I would listen to, I don't know, Decapitator or something, I would immediately love it. As a child, I listened very much to them. But I'm trying to listen to things that surprise me, that make me think, or maybe make me, upgrade some kind of aspect as a musician.
And have you an example of anything like that has, or anything that has surprised you over the course of maybe the last 12 months?
Yeah, so I'll just say, some things at the top of my head. I'm sure there are many others. I liked the kind of theatrical and operatic approach of Imperial Triumphant, um, Spirit of Ecstasy, etc. I don't know, it's expected from them to do something wacky, but I loved how they executed this one. So they actually surprised me in a more visual kind of sense and artistic kind of sense, because I always love them for their surprising music, but this time I loved that they took it a bit farther with their image. So that's one thing. And I also liked kind of borderline metal, like Author and Punisher. It's an industrial electronic project.
I'm sure somebody has told me about that, and
Yeah,
it's like been one of the things I've been meaning to listen to. But when you're
do it.
inundated with so much music, sometimes
Yes.
things kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I get it. But try to find some time, because this guy has delivered something very special. And he also, because I saw a documentary about him, he also he designs and builds his own instruments, like huge steampunk levers that when you push it, it's for the kick. When you pull it, is for the snare. So he has very organic performances that you would not expect from an industrial project. He's awesome, really.
I'm going to look for it on
Yeah, yeah. You
GoBuzz
should
right
look.
now
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and add it. Is Author and Punisher a little bit like Perturbator?
He's a lot slower, doomy, deeper, and a lot more goth in his last release. Goth, in a very abstract sense. He's very dark
Yeah.
and heavy and metal, but he has a bit of a very sweet, nostalgic doominess to it. I don't know, like I liked it very much, very much.
On the topic of Perturbator, I was watching I think it was Hellfest videos, and they showed they showed like a couple of songs on stage with them playing. One of the things that I loved was the vibe on stage that those guys had with like it's basically just like this one sort of solid light that's behind them, and then this massive like wrought iron pentagram that kind of
Yeah, I've
lights
seen
up
it.
behind them. It looks so fucking cool. Like just as a great example of a band that can create an awesome vibe on stage with, I can't imagine the wrought iron pentagram is costing them a huge amount of money. Aside from the pain of lugging it around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it just creates such a badass atmosphere on stage. I loved it.
Yeah, I've seen him live in Athens like 2 or 3 years ago. It was awesome. It did not have the production value of Hellfest, of course, but it was really great. And I was surprised to see that he had live musicians, because his style is programmed, obviously. But it was great. The performance was really enjoyable.
Well, that's another thing that I really love. Combi Christ do it as well, and obviously, Combi Christ has gone a different route now musically. Their newer stuff, I think, sucks. But in the like the older music, one thing that was awesome about seeing them live is they would have kind of the electronic beats like the dance industrial beats, but then they would have a live drummer playing over it. and it would just have such a cool vibe to it when you see it live. Like Perturbator did that as well at Hellfest. I love having that feel of like the live musician playing over the like dance kind of electronic rhythms. It sounds so cool to me.
Agreed. Agreed.
All right, let's get to Afsky and the song Stormfulde Hav. What do you think so far?
Nice, slow building, atmospheric black metal. Um, Very nice open guitars. I liked it for the time being. I would love to explore fully the song, of course, to create a strong opinion. But personally, I'm kind of difficult with music nowadays, unfortunately. Um, but I really admire the musicianship, and I support these bands. Maybe it's not the band that will make me reconsider all my thoughts about music or something. But
Yeah, it's not a this changes everything band.
no, but I love the way they express themselves. And that's enough for me, because that's the same thing I do. And I really loved the acoustic guitar at the beginning, by the way.
I was about to say, I think the acoustic guitar at the beginning actually is better to me thus far. And we'll give it another minute in a second, but I think it actually outshines when the song gets heavier, because I think this slower brand of black metal to me, I'm it's very hit or miss for me, right? It can work, but it has to truly be in the right hands, because if not, I find it can, for me at least, it drags on, just way too much, and I find myself getting very, very bored.
Yes.
I don't require every black metal album I listen to sound like Panzer Division Marduk, but I, I need a degree of hatred, and I need a degree of anger and violence and spite on a black metal record. And with this sort of stuff, it reminds me a little bit of that shit that I sometimes make fun of, which is, the guy in the corpse paint sitting by the side of the river crying.
Yeah, in the
It's
tree.
just
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
it's not,
Sitting on the base of a tree.
yeah, sitting on the rock with like a solitary tear going down his cheek.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually kind of the overall image that accompanies sometimes post black metal or something.
Yeah.
But this, from the snippet that we heard, I think it's more of atmospheric black metal. I would say, no. What is
I
the
think that's what
genre?
they're gunning for. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm seeing dripping on the logo, so
yeah.
potentially the tears that I spoke about earlier are dripping off the logo as we speak. But let's give it another minute, and let's hear
Okay, of
let's hear if
course.
something exciting happens. no. It went exactly the direction that I didn't want it to go, which is like, okay, now it's dragging on. I mean,
Yeah.
I know people that would like this very, very much.
Same.
But many of the people that I know that would like this very, very much are also guys that write poetry to girls, and they're grown men taking song lyrics and passing it off as their own poetry. So
Yeah.
so
Look,
it's a nay from me on that one.
yeah, I think the genre is kind of defines the compositions a lot, and I feel that as we spoke earlier about belonging in a group, I think that this happens also at the level of bands. That sometimes bands adopt a certain style because they know that it's the closest thing to their to their expression, and they would fit in this circle. That would also make the promotion easier and stuff. I'm not saying that they write music depending on the style they want to adopt, but I think that if you want to be in the post black metal, circle, you have to do a very cookie cutter kind of music in some ways.
Yeah. No, I
Maybe.
completely agree. And again, you talk about emotions and emotional connection. I feel far more of a emotional connection to something like a immediate song that jumps to mind, Goldsverd, that song Carving, is it called Carving the Mountain? I think it was on his last EP or his last record. I mean, that to
Okay.
me is like that's like a fantastic expression of genuine emotion on a black metal record.
Yes,
I mean,
agreed.
you guys had many such moments on Next Fornix as well. Again, I think with Next Fornix, you hit a very perfect middle ground between atmospheric and aggression, and the
Yes.
nastiness that I like.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, speaking of nastiness, Connecticut-based five-piece The Acacia Strain are pleased to announce the release of their 11th studio album, Step Into the Light, on May the 12th, 2023 via Rise Records. Below, you can check out the album's other details, as well as the first streaming single, Fresh Bones. I'm a little hit or miss with Acacia Strain. They've put out a couple of songs that I fucking love, and they actually have like one or two records that I really like as well. I do recall the story of seeing them live, and within literally 5 minutes, I said to my friend, if I don't leave now, I'm going to get arrested.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you had a bunch of fucking moronic kids doing their kung fu kicks and their windmilling
Okay.
and all their bullshit. And it's like,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
fine to mosh, mate, but if you're going to accidentally kick me in the face, I'm going to accidentally beat the fucking dog shit out of you.
Yeah. Is it called? Do they call this moshing, or does it have another name or something? I don't know.
It's the
It's not
asshole
moshing.
dance. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the only thing to
Yeah.
call it. The
More
dance
like
of the
it.
asshole, dude. Well, it's not often that I give props to Des Fafara on this podcast, but I have to give him props because I saw Lamb of God once, like years back, and Devil Driver were opening for them, and he stopped the show because of kung fu kicking and windmilling and
Really?
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Wow.
said like he was like he was really like furious about it. He was like, fucking kung fu kicking at a show, fuck that shit. It's like
Well, I get it. I get it.
oh yeah, no, big time. It's
Yeah.
it's one thing to mosh, it's one thing to move around, jump around and stuff, but don't make the whole evening fucking unpleasant for everybody around you just because you're now going to show us how you could do your little wheel kicks. I'll give you a real kick, and then we'll see if you fancy carrying on kicking. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm probably reasonably skeptical about it because as much as they do have records that I like, it's been a while since I've listened to anything of theirs that I do like. But let's hear what Fresh Bones sounds like. I was ready to write that song off in the first 20 seconds. And then when they slowed it down and they brought in that bit of that boogie
Yes.
beat, and then they brought in that slower bit where you use like a bit of keyboard in the background, all of a sudden I was like, okay, now I'm interested again.
Yeah.
This is definitely a band that needs to stay away from blast beats altogether. They suck when they do fast songs because Vincent Bennett, the vocalist, he sounds like an asshole when he's doing fast. What's it like when he's doing fast fast vocals, or he's vocaling over something fast? It sounds like he's straining. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. But when he does something that's like slowed down and a bit more atmospheric and a bit more doomy, or
Yeah.
maybe a bit more sort of, just hardcore influenced, that kind of
Yeah.
boogie beat, that breakdown beat, then he's fucking badass, and that's where this
Yeah.
band becomes really really cool.
Yeah, I agree with the fast and slow parts. When the slow part kicked in, it's like they were more in their field, in their territory.
Yeah.
More confident, kinda. Um, Also, maybe what genre do you define Acacia Strain?
Well,
What is it?
this would definitely be deathcore, which generally speaking,
Deathcore.
I'm not a fan of deathcore. I think there's
Okay.
only two, maybe three bands that would fall into the deathcore genre that I actually like.
Like same, same.
Despised Icon is one, Acacia Strain is one. I think there was a Molotov Solution record a couple of years ago that I liked, but I mean stuff like Lorna Shore and things like that. I mean, I would sooner listen
Yeah,
to
I
fucking
know.
Silence than that shit, man.
Same, with pleasure. Yeah, same. The thing is that you said that they should stay away from blast beats. I
Yeah,
think that the experience of each band in their genre also makes them good in some things, specific things.
yeah,
Um, to emulate a good, powerful blast beat, black death metal style, it's not very easy to do from a deathcore band,
yeah.
For the drummer, for the guitarist, for everyone, for the singer as well. So it's kind of not their specialty, I would say. And that's what I heard here. But when, right after the fast blast beat, there was a transitional riff of like 4 seconds, that never repeated. I love this stuff. I love when you just put one instance of a different transitional riff that will throw you out of the way and then throw you the slow part, for example.
Yeah.
I like the transition. It fulfilled me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you're spot on about that feeling of them being more confident. They're more in their element. They're more in their zone, and the song just starts working as soon as
Yeah, yeah.
as soon as that slower bit comes in. By the way, if anybody is not familiar with the Acacia Strain and your interest has been piqued, I strongly recommend a record they put out in 2012 called "Death Is the Only Mortal," which features upon it the great Kirk Winstein doing vocals on a track called "Go to Sleep." "Go to Sleep" and a track called "The Mouth of the River" are two of the fucking hardest songs ever. If you like lifting, that needs to be on your permanent playlist. But yeah, so far so good. Let's give it another 30
Awesome.
seconds. Talking about being in their element.
Oh yeah.
They sped the song up slightly, and
Yes.
then I was like, "Oh fuck
Yeah.
me!" And then they
Yeah.
they came back to it. So
Again, I loved how it threw me out, of the direction, like they went to speed it up and they just slowed it down directly. So
yeah,
I love this crazy stuff. It surprises you, it
yeah.
hooks you as a listener.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready to give them the full top-notch accolade just yet, but I think that's a
Okay.
decent song, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. I don't know if you're a fan of hardcore, but I like hardcore when it's done well, and I really like this band, Jesus Peach. No, Jesus Peach,
Okay.
Jesus Peace. So Jesus Peach are launching a new song called Son of Jesus Peach. I don't know where the fuck I came on that. They're launching a new song called Tunnel Vision. It
Let's
says
go.
Philadelphia-based hardcore metalcore ensemble Jesus Peace premiere new song in advance, Tunnel Vision, as part of their forthcoming record, So Unknown, due on April 14th on Century Media Records. Will I play it? Yeah, I've had a couple of instances of Century Media
Oh,
yanking
really?
songs from. Well, I'm just giving me the hassle of having to edit their shit out when I do this on
Yeah.
YouTube. But let's
Okay. Okay.
let's give it a spin and
Let's
see if I can
risk
get
it.
away with it.
Let's risk it.
Yeah. I'm a little nonplussed by that. It's very paint by numbers. When the song speeds up, when the mid tempo piece comes in, I think it sounds better. But I tell you why I said Jesus Peach. It's because anytime I see even the word hardcore now, I keep thinking of the last Botch single, and I keep wondering when the fuck are they going to release a full length record, because that single was genius and it was
Yeah.
way better than this shit.
Yeah. So about this one, in the beginning, if you notice, there's quite an almost tendency to go to a black metal vibe. Almost, it's a bit, disharmonic in the beginning. That it's a bit
Yeah.
weird, and afterwards, at the 1 minute mark, around the 1 minute mark, the riff and the drumming reminded me a lot of System of a Down for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. And considering the fact that I think System of a Down is overrated trash, I know now you've articulated exactly why I'm not a fan of this band. So, or at least I'm not a fan of the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Emperor confirmed first US shows in over 15 years. I know a couple of members of the Horsemen are going to be headed to that show. I have
So
demanded that that Evan Hopper scream hateful remarks at Ishan when he comes on stage, specifically to the tune of "You would have been nothing without Samoth, you commie bastard."
true, true, true.
But you were going to say?
I was gonna say, what is the genre of Emperor considered? It's symphonic black metal, no?
Yeah, definitely.
And
I mean, I would just call them black metal. They
yeah,
because I mean
me
they
too.
were of the original. So
Yeah, but it's kind of remarkable that bands like Old Man's Child, for example, that are truly symphonic, for example, belong in the same genre as Emperor. I would think that a new genre only for Emperor would be appropriate, like a genre only for themselves.
living off past glories, black metal.
Well, yeah, Isan has turned his attention to to experimental musicianship and stuff.
Sean has turned his attention to spitting on his legacy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's yeah. He's actually I have not like examined thoroughly his views and whatever. I didn't hear him speak, but I think that in the way that he promotes his stuff and in the way that he writes stuff, it's like as if he was ashamed of what he did in the past, and that's it. Like that's the worst. I mean, like, yeah.
100%, and that makes it even more infuriating to me that he goes out and he makes money off of it all the time. Like, why do you talk about how much you dislike the genre and everything else coming out in it right now, but you keep making money off of it? So, I mean, I know it's going to be fun to see it, but and equally, it's going to be fun to see it because the band was never just one man.
Yeah.
But what has become very
True.
apparent to me over the course of the last couple of years of, having been an Emperor fan and, watching the decline of, once again, a guy that I held in extremely high regard. Samoth was the ingredient X in that band. And Swartolv, when he was on the podcast, he more or less confirmed that because he knew them. And he reiterated that Samoth was the serious guy that kind of, sort of brought the heavy and, brought the nasty shit to it. And so my resentment for Emperor still being around and playing shows when they're not putting out music is that it holds up a new Wretched End record. And I really, really love the Wretched End, which is Samoth's project that he's done 3 records with. And as I said, so far, no sign of him doing anything else with that, which is a real shame.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so here's 2 grim-looking fellows standing in front of what looks like their coffee table that they've spilled a bunch of shit on. OnFOD, a new song and video streaming. Black metal purveyors OnFOD are premiering a all inboard directed video for Thwetalan, the newest preview song from the band's upcoming album, Det Osterbotniska Morkret, due on May the 26th via Black Lion Records. The band states, "We are proud to announce that today we released the first music video from our first album, Thwetalan, which was filmed with old cassette VHS technology," which is pretty cool, "and produced by Wolf Throne Studios. On Friday, the song will be released on Spotify." I did play a track off this record on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I like that. So I want this one sounds like. And I will also say Black Lion Records have been on a bit of a tear because there's another band they've signed recently that I listened to and I remembered liking it as well. So good for them. All right, but let's give OnFOD a spin. So, you know how sometimes you want to watch a movie that is got, incredible substance. So, last year, my favorite film that, was All Quiet on the Western Front. So you want to watch something that's deep and, is emotional, grabs you by the heartstrings. Other times, you're not necessarily in the mood for something that's that emotionally heavy, and you just want to watch, Will Ferrell, or you want to watch fucking Rambo. Yeah. This is Rambo black metal. Yeah, there's nothing that's unique or clever or particularly different about this, but it's fucking badass. They execute what they do very, very well.
I call this party black metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for, fucking drinking beer and having good time and jamming and, and headbanging. That's it. And 100%. Yeah.
You can see the obviously they're acting up for the camera, but I mean you can get the feeling that they're enjoying what they're doing. It's always funny. Like I learned a very interesting lesson from my mom. My mom was a piano teacher, and she I remember going with her once to the hall where her students would do their examinations, where they like go up in a grade. And there was a girl that was going to play for her grade 8. And I remember I asked my mom, do you think she's going to pass? And my mom said no. And I was like, why not? Because I've heard her play at home and things like that. She sounds like she's very proficient. And my mom said she can technically play everything that I ask her to play, but there's absolutely no emotion to what she's playing. She's not conveying any sort of emotion in her instruments, and that was probably like the biggest had the biggest impact on me in terms of how I viewed and listened to music. Subsequently, and I was probably only 8 or 9 years old at the time that she said that to me. But you can definitely, as much as this is very basic black metal, you can definitely hear these guys are down with what they're doing. They're enjoying themselves.
Yes, yes, yes. It's again, I think, a matter of confidence, because when you do something well, I think that you know it deeply.
Yeah.
So you can hear the confidence in their performance, 100%.
All right, let's move on. Lamp of Murmuur, Seal of the Dominator single launched. Seal of the Dominator, the newest single from Los Angeles-based black metal unity Lamp of Murmuur, has surfaced online. The band's upcoming record, Saturnian Bloodstorm, will be set free on March the 26th. And fun fact, and I strongly recommend everyone listening to this start saving money, because March the 27th is my birthday. And I expect to be showered with gifts.
Noted.
All right. Lamp of Murmuur has a bunch of people that really love them. I like the first single that I heard. It sounded very, very much like Sons of Northern Darkness to me, like right down to the production, reminding me of Abyss Studios production. Awesome. But let's hear what you think. That sounds fucking badass. Yeah. That you were talking earlier about that little like dip into melody, or that just this slight diversion, like a musical sleight of hand, where you just do something slightly different and then you just go back to what you were doing before. That's a perfect example of that, and it works unbelievably well, in my opinion.
Yes, 100%. I liked it very much. In the beginning, the first 20, 30 seconds reminded me of an album I love. It's the album Eidolon by Dark Fortress. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I know it very well.
With a kind of mid-tempo, satiric on new age drums, and afterwards it changed to a more melodic part that personally reminded me of America, the melodic American style. You could hear that, and I enjoyed it very much. I liked it. Very nice.
It
had also, I'm sorry, it also had a very nice kind of tribute to old school as well, I can say.
Yeah. You know what it also reminded me of a little bit? Inquisition. That opening riff reminds me a bit of something that I've heard off of either Bloodshed upon the Imperial or Empyrean Altar upon the Celestial Zenith, or the album that came previous. But very much like it almost even almost had that slight kind of trebliness in the guitar, because they always Inquisition always use that weird like effect on their guitar. Veilburner have done it as well on their last record. But okay, this one is pretty long, so let me I'm going to jump to the halfway mark, 3 minutes 30 seconds, and let's hear what's going on at this point in the song. Fuck yes,
Fuck
that
yes.
sounds fucking badass. It's got that. It's got that. I like what I call the military beat. His vocals sound awesome. It sounds like he's chewing fucking concrete like ordinary people chew chewing gum. It's a yeah. That definitely earns the top notch of the first
Yeah.
top notch of this session. That's really
Yeah,
really
very,
good.
yeah, very nice, very nice. Great energy, and kind of the quality of good old school with some newest influences. I liked the the lead guitar. The
Mm.
all the guitars actually, they played at one moment some really confusing scales. So I love when um, the emotion that you get is kind of mixed. Sometimes you can hear this as something epic or hopeful, and then it turns to something paranoid with just one addition of a note. I love their style.
Yeah, no, this is really really good. It is significantly increased my anticipation for that record. All right, Megadeth, Marty Friedman to perform for one-off show in Japan. Hooray!
Yeah,
Um, what else have we got here that we want to listen to? I know that there is a new Old Forest record out, and or no new Old Forest song. But before that, Meinen Werver Vuurwals track unleashed on March the 10th. California-based black metal unit Meinen Werver will put out their fourth studio album titled Vuurwals. Via the YouTube player below, you can give a listen to the title track. Now, I mentioned this because I saw the album cover to this, and I don't know whether I don't think these guys are sketchy because, as far as I know, Metal Storm wouldn't host any sketchy
yeah.
bands. But I did think to myself, you've got to be pretty brave to be a Californian-based band and have the Maltese cross and two pipe bombs,
True,
and like a
true.
skull and crossbones in your
Yeah,
logo,
yeah, yeah. True.
and give yourself a German name. You're kind of poking the bear there a little bit.
It's
The
okay. Someone needs to do it, so it's okay.
you're poking the purple haired gender fluid bear there a little
Bear.
bit. All right, but I do like me some warish black metal, so let's hear what this
Yeah.
sounds like. I've got to say, I quite like that. It's, I mean, again, it's not brainy, it's not Mensa black metal, but it's good stuff. I like, the scream works really well. That riff sounds cool. The drummer sounds like he's
Yes.
fucking on, crystal meth.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I love the drums.
yeah, very like unhinged, like completely wild.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
no, I'm enjoying it so far.
And you know what? Organic drums, drum playing.
Yeah.
You can hear the human playing.
100%.
And it's a thing that nowadays is kind of difficult to find. Because the human factor in drumming as well creates problems in a way that for lower budget productions, it's very difficult to edit a physical drummer than it is to create your own, for example.
Am I dreaming, or so I know you play guitar.
Yeah.
You did vocals on Utkena. You didn't do the drums on Utkena as well, did you?
Yes, I did, but not played. I just programmed them. They are.
Are
It's
they programmed drums?
yes, yes, yes. Of
Jesus, I
course.
didn't. You can't even hear that.
Thank you, thank you. I try hard to mask the non-humanity of our drummer.
Yeah. Jesus, I genuinely thought that those were real drums. I
Thank you,
didn't.
thank you.
I didn't realize they were programmed.
Vothrosch as well.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah. Well, I probably should have put two and two together
Yeah,
because
yeah,
on the liner notes it it lists Phil as doing vocals, you as
yeah,
guitar, and then NS as bass.
yeah.
So yeah, that's impressive stuff, dude.
Thank you, my man.
But yeah, I agree with you on the organic sound of this, which I really liked. Like you can almost hear slight imperfections in the sound. Like you can hear he's not hitting the snare drum in exactly the same place every single time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so it
He's
doesn't have
running.
that it doesn't have that plastic sound that you hear from a lot of modern production.
Exactly. That the blast beat we heard from the deathcore band. What was the deathcore band
The
we?
Acacia Strain.
Yeah, exactly. That was a point, for example, that separates both those blast beats. The
Yeah.
blast beat we heard before was quantized 100% on time, etc. Here you can see that like the snare is a lot closer to the kick than the center of the hit. It's great. I love these imperfections as well.
Yeah, 100%. The only quantization being done here is by Satan himself. So,
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
all right, let's get back to it. Not often that you hear a black metal song where a guitarist is fucking ripping a solo like that,
Oh yeah.
especially not for that long.
Yes.
I quite like that. There's one part of the song I didn't like so much, but I'll let you share your thoughts first.
Yeah. First of all, once again, the addition of the solo is American for me. It it screams American. I like it. It's like kind of refreshing sometimes. But I kind of speaking in general terms, I like that black metal does not have so many solos. It's about the atmosphere and not so much about the spotlight that an instrument will get. But if incorporated correctly, like he did here, it's something very impressive and nice to listen to.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think every single thing always has to be done in service of the song, right? So rather than, with tech death, for example, part of the reason that I hate that so much is because, the playing is always comes at the expense of the song, in my opinion. Like everything is always overplayed, overdone, overproduced. I think if you are going to incorporate anything, it has to be in service of something bigger. It works here because the song already sounds completely and utterly unhinged, and so you need that. When that solo starts playing, it's just almost like, well, fucking, how much more craziness and carnage can you add to
Yeah,
the mix?
exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it works. It works well from that perspective. What I don't like are the vocals.
Okay.
They don't spoil the song for me completely, but I have a preference towards vocals that seem to have more purpose.
Okay.
This is like wind tunnel vocals. It's just screaming over the song rather than almost acting as an additional weapon in the arsenal. If you understand what I'm saying,
Of
Philip did
course,
that
of
very very
course.
well on Vothrosch, and you do that very well on Utkena. And if you
Thank
think
you.
of other black metal bands, the Masters, if we are to use as I'm inspired by the World War II iconography, Mortis from Marduk. I mean,
Oh
he's
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
in terms of using his voice as a weapon. That guy is the fucking king of doing that.
I
Um,
agree
and you can
100%.
imagine what
Yeah.
this would sound like if it had a vocalist that was not mimicking the style, but doing something similar.
Yes, yes. It actually, it brings gravitas. It brings gravity to a song
Yeah,
when the singer is complimenting the song and not just playing along. I think that's
yeah,
the difference because vocals need composition as well. I mean, different syllables, different intonations of words in different spots and times of the song will create constructive interference with the song itself. So it affects the frequency of the song as a whole. It's very important. So we have to treat it as an extra instrument. That's what you
yeah,
said exactly.
yeah, absolutely. But as I said, not bad.
Yeah.
I'm it's not quite top notch level stuff, but it's not bad. Let's do two more, and then I'll let you go get to sleep. Thanks for sticking around for as long as you've done. Uh,
My pleasure.
I have been dying to hear this. Old Forest put out a new track, so they've also been signed, I believe, by so they've been signed by Soul Cellar Records. So it says here, black metalers Old Forest put out a music video for Faust Recants Satan Cometh, the new single and opening track of their upcoming full-length effort, Sutwick, out on March 31st. So like I said, super excited to hear this. I've saved it for the news rant, so this is the first time I'm going to give it a listen.
Awesome.
It already starts well. Anybody who's not watching this on YouTube, the three beeps
Awesome.
you've just heard were a countdown, but it only counts to one number, and that's 6. So
Awesome.
that's
Really nice touch. Really nice touch.
genius.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
move on.
Oh yeah.
This song is largely elevated, I think, by that interlude between the vocals. So you've got the verse, he's doing the vocals. The vocals sound cool, and everything there sounds decent. And then you've got that like really sort of understated but quite epic sounding, like
Yeah.
that is so fucking cool, and like it just makes the song really really come together.
Yeah, I liked it as well, and the vocalist is very confident as well. He really puts some energy into his singing, and I like that. And also, it's very prominent in the mix as well. As for the guitars, I love this kind of approach. Old school black metal, not so focused on speed, rather than the demonic and satanish atmosphere that you create.
Yeah,
I
the
love
vibe.
this.
The
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah.
the the vibe is definitely very strong on this track.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, let's get back to it. Just pausing there. That the way that those drums just picked up speed on that last bar, fuck me, that's cool. I
Oh yeah.
love when you have those kind of subtle rhythm changes on happening against the backdrop of the same riff.
Yeah, yeah.
Very very cool.
Yeah, that was what I was saying earlier. That it's very refreshing to hear, at the end of a section, for example, a little variation on the drums or something to transition into something new. It's really great.
Yeah, no, totally agree. All right, we'll give it 30 more seconds. That is fucking badass. I love it. I think it's very, very cool. I like the music video as well.
Yeah, it adds to the freaky, aspect.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's like intentionally cheesy, but it works very, very well. I would take that a million times over. Like last year, for some reason, there was this craze or this trend in in metal, not necessarily just black metal, but metal generally, where every fucking other video was like some old man sitting in his underwear on the beach, and he looks like he's disheveled and homeless. And then there's there'll be a moment in the video where he's just running randomly. Fuck knows what's going on, and then it's spliced up by the band standing on the rocks singing. It's unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
Now, this is another one I've been wanting to hear for a while now. I am a big fan of Vredensdal. I've featured Mikhail from Vredensdal on the podcast twice. I will most certainly have him on again if he's keen to come on to talk about this new record. His new studio release, Sonic Devotion to Darkness, which is a brilliant name for an album, is premiering the first preview tune called The Eye in the Well. The new music output will be released by Soul Cellar Records on March the 31st. Soul Cellar also putting out that Old Forest album, of course. What I loved the most about the previous Vredensdal record, and I don't know whether whether it was something that ever got onto your radar, but it reminded me of those records that your parents forbid you from listening to, and that when you switched it on, you had to do so probably with your shitty little headphones or soft enough that they can't hear, or you have to wait for them to go to the shop so you're alone at home.
Forbidden.
Yeah, but it's like this feeling like when you hear it for the first time as a teenager, it's like, it's so fucking cool. Like you just can't get enough of it, but your parents wouldn't approve. And that's part of what makes it so great. It definitely, that whole record had that vibe to me.
Okay.
All right. So I'll let you hear this and you tell me what you think.
Of course. natural black metal.
Yeah.
So I think it's first of all, it made an impression on me. The harmony in the beginning of the song, it reminded me a bit of the vibe and atmosphere that Bolzer convey through their melodies. Something that touches a bit upon folk, for example, maybe. The rest is, I really like the energy. I really like the art, and I didn't quite really hear very well the vocals. Maybe they're a bit dry for my taste, but overall I liked it very much. And it also reminded me a bit of home of Greek Hellenic black metal, like old school Hellenic black metal. Like the melodies reminded me a lot of this as well.
Yeah, I think you might have a point there, and I mean, again, I know Mikhail from speaking to him on the podcast, so I've got some insight into how he writes and what inspires him. It's got a very deliberately old school vibe to it. It sounds like, you know, those cool demos that you would get hold of,
Yes,
you know,
yeah,
when you
yeah.
really started getting you weren't just knee deep in the shit anymore, but you were like up to your head in it now, and like, you know, there's no
Yes.
turning back, and you start getting hold of the really underground stuff. It kind of has that vibe to it. And I which I really like, and I've you know, he hit gold, I think, with doing that on the previous record. He has definitely kind of stepped it up, I think, on this song as well.
Yeah, I
And
like
also,
it.
I like when the song speeds up a little bit, and you know, that rolling kind of gallop again never gets away from itself with throwing in blast beats for absolutely no reason. I mean, it would be fine if he did use it, if it was going to work.
True.
But the song is it's nicely done because it's in service of the right elements of the song, I think.
Yeah, it's quite balanced. Yeah, and I like a lot the soundscape he creates.
Yeah, for sure. Let's give it one more minute. By the way, you remember what I said about like those random moments?
Yeah, that's what I was
Genius.
gonna say. I was gonna say that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love the folk vibe. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that was really, really good. And as I said, just the voice noise already to me that is an instant winner. So no, good stuff there. Right, my brother. I've kept you up probably longer than I ought to have done, but what a pleasure
pleasure, my
talking to you
friend.
again. This is long overdue, and I had an absolute blast. Not just talking about the
Same.
the band, but doing the news rant is so much fun when you've got someone to do it with. You know, otherwise I just fly off the handle about Dave Mustaine. So, but dude,
Absolutely, my friend.
you must take
Thank you
care of
very much.
yourself, and we will definitely speak again very, very soon.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Everyone, check out Odium if you haven't. I think you will like it, and great things are to come. I promise that you will hear something new and interesting and fulfilling, I hope. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Jackie.
My pleasure, brother. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You just listened to a song called Mass by Wothrosch off their fantastic debut record, Odium. It is available right now on Hammerheart Records. It features the guest vocals of Niklas Carforth of Shining fame. Great record, absolutely fantastic band, and what an absolute delight catching up with my friend Nassos. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and a big thanks and a shout out to him for being not only a great guest but also a gracious guest as I took him upon the news rant odyssey. I kind of sprung that on him at the last minute as well. But do let me know what you guys think of having guests on for the news rant. It's obviously going to be dependent on people's time, but if you liked it and the legions demand it, I'll certainly ask more guests whether they want to do it with me. So, but I had a good time. Listen to some very good music as well. And speaking of good music, I know that I owe you all a release rundown. I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm listening to right now, but I don't want to really go into detail on it until I've properly assessed everything, until I've done some proper quality control, because I don't like to half-ass anything. So give me one more week's reprieve. I'll do that for you next week. And also next week, you are going to see either one of the following two guests, Kevin Sharp of Venomous Concept and Broken Hope. I'm actually booked to speak to him tonight as I'm recording this on the 17th of February in the year of our Lord 2023. And then I'm also due to talk to Sam Bean of the Antichrist Imperium and Werewolves next week, a man I consider a friend, and also probably one of my favorite guests ever on the show. Very, very excited about recording that and about talking to him again. And then on top of that, I also have a whole load of other people in the pipeline that I either have already gotten booked in or I need to get booked in over the course of the next couple of weeks. Roman from Bizarre Cult, Michael from Vredensdal. I need to get the chaps from Omega Infinity in, and there's quite a few others too. So excited about what the next couple of weeks and months are going to bring. I want to thank all of you once again for checking out the podcast and for all of the great support that you guys give. Whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, I hope you stay safe and I hope you stay healthy. I'm going to play out with a track by Utkena, my guest this week's other band. This is off their fantastic record, Next Fornix, which, like I said, was bestowed or had bestowed upon it the accolade of Best Album of 2020. The song is called Temporal Sea. It sees us out today. I will see all of you bad motherfuckers again next week.